The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across the Ewing mansion's living room, and Sue Ellen stood perfectly still by the bar cart, her hand wrapped around a glass that had been empty for the last 10 minutes. She wasn't drinking, she was waiting. Outside, car doors slammed in the circular driveway. JR was home. She had learned to read his footsteps the way sailors read storms. Tonight they were measured, confident, the steps of a man who had just closed a deal or destroyed an enemy. The front door opened without urgency. His silhouette filled the doorway for a moment before he moved into the light, loosening his tie with one hand, his briefcase in the other. He looked at her the way someone might glance at a painting they had
I see a winner in you, son. Hit like and subscribe, and let's stay on the winning side together. You've got the spark.
grown tired of, but were too proud to remove from the wall. "You're up late," he said. Not a question. An observation delivered with the emotional weight of commenting on the weather. Sue Ellen set the glass down with deliberate care. "I wanted to talk." JR moved to the bar, poured himself 3 fingers of bourbon, and took a sip before responding. "About what? Your latest charity luncheon? The garden club? Or are we revisiting old grievances again?" The smile he gave her could have cut glass. "About us," she said quietly. "About what we've become." He turned to face her fully then, and there was something almost curious in his expression, as if she had proposed a business deal he hadn't considered. "We became exactly what we were always going to become, Sue Ellen. You just had different expectations." The words landed with surgical precision. Sue Ellen felt her spine straighten, that familiar mixture of rage and desperation rising in her throat. This was their dance, choreographed over years of late nights and bitter mornings, performed in rooms where love had once lived and now only its ghost remained. "I was 23 when I married you," she said. "Do you remember that girl at all?" JR sat in his leather chair, the one position to command the room. "I remember a beauty queen from the Wright family who wanted to be Mrs. J.R. Ewing more than she wanted anything else in the world. I remember someone who knew exactly what she was signing up for. I knew you were ambitious. I didn't know you were cruel." The word hung between them like smoke. JR swirled his bourbon, watched the liquid catch the light. When he spoke, his voice carried no defense, no explanation, only cold assessment. "Cruelty implies emotion, Sue Ellen. What I am is practical. There's a difference." She laughed, and it was a hollow sound that seemed to surprise even her. "You've had affairs with half of Dallas. You've humiliated me in front of our friends, our family, the people I see at the grocery store. You've used our marriage as a weapon in your business deals and our son as leverage in your schemes. And you call that practical?" JR set his glass down. "I call it honest. I never pretended to be something I'm not. You're the one who keeps hoping I'll transform into some character from one of those romance novels you hide in your nightstand. I'm not that man. I never was. And the sooner you accept that, the easier your life becomes." "Easier?" Sue Ellen's voice rose despite herself. "You think accepting that my husband values oil leases over his own family makes life easier?" "I value winning," JR said simply. "Everything else is secondary." You knew that when you stood at that altar in your white dress and said yes to this life. Don't act surprised now that the bill came due. The accuracy of his observation cut deeper than any insult could have. Sue Ellen had known, even then, standing in that church with all of Dallas watching. She had seen the calculation in his eyes when he looked at her, the way he assessed her value like he might assess a piece of land. But she had been young enough to believe that love could be earned, that if she was beautiful enough, patient enough, perfect enough, he might eventually see her as something more than an asset to be managed. "I thought I could change you," she admitted, the confession coming out barely above a whisper. JR smiled, and for once there was something almost genuine in it, almost sad. "Darling, nobody changes me. I'm the one who does the changing. Ask anyone who's ever tried to outmaneuver me in a boardroom. Ask my brothers. Ask my father." "Jock loved you," Sue Ellen said, "despite everything. Jock understood me." Jock corrected. "That's different than love. He understood that in this world, you're either predator or prey. He raised me to be predator. Everything I've done, everything I am, is what he trained me to be. The difference is I'm better at it than he ever was." Sue Ellen moved to the window. Looked out at the sprawling grounds of Southfork Ranch, the empire that had become her prison. And what am I in your world, JR? What role did you assign me? He considered the question with the same focus he brought to contract negotiations. You're my wife, the mother of my son, the woman who stands next to me at fundraisers and makes our family look respectable while I do what needs to be done to keep all of this running. That's not nothing, Sue Ellen. Most people would kill for that position. Most people would kill to escape it. JR walked to where she stood by the window. For a moment, they were side by side, two people looking at the same view and seeing completely different things. Then leave, he said quietly. Walk out that door, file for divorce. Take John Ross, if the courts will give him to you, though we both know how that would play out. Start over somewhere else. Nobody's forcing you to stay. The challenge hung in the air between them, and they both knew the truth of why she wouldn't take it. Where would she go? Back to her family, who would see her divorce as a personal failure, to a small apartment somewhere, trading the Ewing name and all its power for anonymity and struggle. She had played this scenario out 1,000 times in her mind during the dark hours when JR was out with Kristen or some other woman whose name she didn't want to know. Every time the calculation came out the same. She was trapped not by his cruelty, but by her own inability to imagine a life outside of this one. You know I won't leave, she said finally. I know. JR turned away from the window. Women aren't married to you. He laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face for just a moment into something almost boyish. Now that's the most honest thing you've said all night. You're absolutely right. Most women couldn't survive being married to me, but you do. That's what makes you special, Sue Ellen. Not your beauty, though God knows you've got that in spades. Your survival instinct. You bend, but you don't break. That takes a particular kind of strength. It was as close to a compliment as he ever came, this acknowledgement of her resilience in the face of his sustained campaign to break her spirit. Sue Ellen felt something twist in her chest, that terrible recognition that even his crumbs of approval meant something to her, that after everything, some part of her still wanted him to see her, to value her, to choose her over the endless parade of oil deals and political schemes and other women. I used to love you, she said. Do you remember that? When we were first married, I would wait by this window for you to come home. I would plan dinners and wear the dresses you liked and try to be everything you wanted. I loved you so much it scared me. JR's expression shifted into something harder to read. Did you ever love me? Even for a moment, the question hung there in the silence that followed. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling through the oak trees that lined the driveway. JR walked back to his chair, sat down, and picked up his bourbon again. When he finally spoke, his voice carried something Sue Ellen had almost never heard from him before: uncertainty. I don't know if I'm capable of loving anyone the way you mean it, he said. Love is complicated. It makes people weak. It makes them make stupid decisions. I've watched men lose everything because they love the wrong person, trusted the wrong woman. Love is a vulnerability I can't afford. So you chose power instead. I chose survival. In my world, Sue Ellen, love gets you killed. Power keeps you alive. He paused, seemed to consider his next words carefully. But if I was capable of it, if some version of me existed that wasn't this one, then yes, you would have been the one. It was the closest thing to a declaration he had ever given her, this hypothetical affection from an imaginary version of himself. Sue Ellen felt tears threaten and forced them back. She would not cry in front of him. She had learned that lesson years ago. Tears were just another weapon he could use, another sign of weakness to exploit. That's not enough, she said. I know. It will never be enough. I know that too. They stood there in the dimly lit room, two people bound by law and history, and a son who carried both their dreams and their damage. The clock on the mantel ticked away the seconds, marking time in a marriage that had long ago stopped resembling anything healthy or whole, but continued anyway, sustained by pride and fear and the terrible momentum of years already spent. JR finished his bourbon and stood. It's late. I have an early meeting with the governor's people about the oil legislation. You coming up? The casual domesticity of the question, coming after everything that had just been said, would have been funny if it wasn't so sad. This was their reality. These sharp exchanges followed by the mundane routine of shared space. They would go upstairs to separate bedrooms, wake up tomorrow, and play their roles again. Mrs. J.R. Ewing at the charity luncheon. J.R. Ewing closing deals and destroying competitors. The perfect Dallas couple keeping up appearances while the foundation rotted beneath them. In a minute, Sue Ellen said. I need to check on John Ross first. J.R. nodded, started toward the stairs, then paused. Without turning back, he said, Sue Ellen, for what it's worth, you're stronger than you give yourself credit for. Most people would have broken years ago. You're still here.
Still fighting.
That means something. Then he was gone, his footsteps fading up the staircase, leaving her alone in the room with the fractured chandelier light and the empty glasses and the ghost of what they might have been in some other life. Sue Ellen walked to the bar, poured herself a real drink this time, and raised the glass to her reflection in the dark window. To survival, she whispered. Outside, the Texas night stretched vast and indifferent over Southfork Ranch. Inside, the Ewing mansion held its secrets close. And somewhere between those two truths, Sue Ellen and J.R.'s marriage continued its slow destruction. Each day, another small death. Each night, another battle in a war that neither could win and neither would surrender. This was their love story, if it could be called love. Toxic and terrible and true. The most honest thing either of them had ever created together, this monument to what happens when ambition meets beauty and both refuse to blink first. The chandelier cast its fractured light across the empty room. Upstairs, separate doors closed in separate hallways, and Dallas slept, unaware and uncaring, while the Ewings played out their private tragedy behind closed doors, wearing their public smiles, perfecting the art of slow-motion destruction disguised as marriage.